When we think of Arthur Conan Doyle, our minds almost immediately go to Sherlock Holmes. We think of the cold, hard logic of a man who can reconstruct a crime from a speck of dust on a sleeve. But in his collection, Tales of Terror and Mystery, Doyle steps away from the magnifying glass and moves into the shadows. This isn't a book about deduction, it's a book about the things that cannot be explained, the things that slip through the cracks of a rational world. The collection is split into two halves, stories of terror and stories of mystery. At first they seem very different, but as you move through them, you realize they are both exploring the same fundamental question: how much of the world can we actually understand? The first half of the book deals with terror in a very visceral, physical way. It starts with the Joyce-Armstrong Fragment, which feels less like a traditional story and more like a recovered record of a descent into madness. We follow an aeronaut named Armstrong, who has become obsessed with what he calls air jungles. He believes that in the high atmosphere, far above the clouds, there are entire ecosystems of predatory life that exist in the swirling currents. He reaches 21,000 feet, and instead of the empty, thin air we expect, he encounters something nightmarish. He describes violent atmospheric whirlpools and strange jellyfish, like organisms and vapor snakes. The story leaves us with the chilling implication that Armstrong didn't just find a new world, he was consumed by it. It's a terrifying look at the idea that the more we explore the unknown, the more the unknown might be looking back at us. This theme of encountering something ancient and misplaced continues in The Terror of Blue John Gap. Here, we meet Dr. James Hardcastle, a man who prides himself on his skepticism. He's a man of science, the kind of person who believes every shadow has a logical source. But while exploring a Roman cave system, he comes face to face with a massive, sightless, prehistoric predator. It's a creature that shouldn't exist in the modern world, a remnant of a time before man. The struggle is brutal and primal. Hardcastle survives, but the victory is hollow. The local villagers, seeing the terror for what it truly is, decide to seal the cave forever. It's a moment where science meets a biological reality that it simply isn't prepared to handle. As the book transitions from the terror of the natural world into the mystery of human behavior, the threats become less about monsters and more about the darkness inside people. In one segment, we find ourselves in the suffocating darkness of a Roman catacomb. An archaeologist named Kennedy is lured into a trap by his rival, Julius Berger. This isn't a monster in the dark, but a man using the darkness as a tool. Berger uses a secret location to blackmail Kennedy, forcing him to reveal a personal scandal that could ruin his life. The story ends with Kennedy wandering, lost and alone, eventually dying in absolute darkness. It's a psychological horror. The realization that the labyrinth isn't just a physical place, but a trap set by human malice. This idea of the mind breaking under pressure is echoed in the story of the surgeon Douglas Stone. Stone is a man with steel nerves, a high society surgeon used to the most high-stakes operations. But during a radical surgery on a woman named Lady Sannox, his composure shatters. He begins to hallucinate the presence of her husband, Lord Sannox, hovering over the operating table. It turns out that Lord Sannox is a calculating manipulator, a man who uses the social structures of the time to exert control. The terror here isn't a ghost, but the collapse of a man's sanity when he realizes he is being played by someone much more sinister than a phantom. Doyle uses these stories to explore how we use deception to maintain the fragile veneer of social respectability. We see this clearly in the story of Dr. Aloysius Lana. There is a man named Ernest, who is the twin brother of the highly respected Dr. Lana. When a confrontation leads to Ernest's death, the scandal of his criminal past threatens to destroy the entire family's reputation. To protect his kin, Dr. Lana makes a desperate, radical choice. He fakes his own death. He steps into the void left by his brother, sacrificing his own identity and social standing to act as a shield for his family. It's a complex moral knot, a crime committed for the sake of honor, which is a recurring theme throughout the collection. That theme of honor and the noble lie reaches a peak in the story of Professor Andreas at the Belmore Street Museum. The museum holds a sacred Jewish breastplate, the Urim and Thummim, and a thief has set his sights on it. The professor discovers that his own protégé is actually a con artist who has seduced the professor's daughter, Elise. Now, the professor is caught in a three-way struggle between professional duty, parental protection, and social reputation. To save his daughter from scandal and protect the sanctity of the museum, he engages in a dangerous game of deception. He secretly replaces the genuine, priceless stones with high-quality counterfeits, allowing the thief to steal the fakes. It's a series of midnight vigils and hiding inside mummy cases, a desperate dance to ensure that the real relics remain safe while the social order is preserved through a lie. Even the most jovial characters in this book aren't safe from this duality. We meet Everard King, a man who presents himself as a warm, friendly host, but who is actually a cold-blooded murderer. He is attempting to kill his own cousin to secure an inheritance. It's a reminder that the person sitting across from you at dinner might be wearing a mask that hides something predatory. When we look back at the collection as a whole, several patterns emerge that tie these disparate stories together. The first is the tension between science and the inexplicable. Doyle was writing at a time when the world was being mapped, measured, and categorized by science. Yet, his stories constantly push against those boundaries. Whether it's the air jungles of the upper atmosphere or a prehistoric beast in a cave, Doyle suggests that science is a small light in a very large, very dark room. No matter how much we measure, there is always something lurking just out of sight. The second major theme is the preservation of honor. In many of these stories, the mystery isn't just about who did it, but rather, why did they hide it? Characters like Dr. Lana and Professor Andreas are willing to commit acts of deception, even crimes, to protect their family's name or their social standing. In the Victorian and Edwardian eras that Doyle lived in, reputation was everything. To lose it was to be socially dead. This creates a fascinating moral grey area, where the hero is often someone who has had to lie or manipulate to keep their world from falling apart. This leads us to the idea of the labyrinth. Throughout the book, Doyle uses physical mazes, Roman catacombs, deep cave systems, museum halls, and even the complex social hierarchies of high society as metaphors. The labyrinth is a way to represent the complexity of human secrets. Once you enter a labyrinth, whether it's a physical tunnel or a web of lies, it becomes incredibly easy to lose your way. The characters aren't just lost in space. They are lost in the consequences of their own actions and the secrets they've tried to bury. Finally, there is the theme of duality, the mask versus the face. Doyle is obsessed with the gap between public respectability and private darkness. You have the respected doctor who is actually a fugitive, the jovial host who is a killer, the surgeon whose nerves are made of steel until they suddenly shatter. This duality suggests that the true terror isn't found in a monster with tentacles or a ghost in a hallway, but in the person standing right next to you, whose true nature is hidden behind a perfectly maintained social mask. In the end, Tales of Terror and Mystery suggests that the most profound mysteries aren't the ones that happen in the deep ocean or the high sky. They are the mysteries of human intention. We spend our lives building structures, laws, social codes, scientific theories to make sense of the world and to protect ourselves. But Doyle's stories suggest that those structures are thin. Whether we are facing a prehistoric predator or a personal scandal, we are constantly navigating a world where the most dangerous things are the ones we cannot see, the ones we choose to hide, and the ones we are too afraid to name. It's a collection that reminds us that even in a world of reason, there is still plenty of room for the unexplained.